All right, here we are checking in the boxing source with my man Jalil Hackett. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, we're preparing. We're less than 2 weeks out from our fight December 5th on the Devontae Davis undercard. So yeah, we're in the gym working.
Yeah, exactly, man. You've been right back in the gym after being part of that Beltway battles that was here over in the DC area, man. So, your dad and, trainers and strength and conditioning coaches got you right back at it.
Oh yeah, definitely. As long as we don't get any injuries or anything in the fight beforehand, we want to be back in the gym and back in the ring as soon as possible. Yeah,
man. So how much fun you having in this gym here, man? Just, working and getting things done and handling business.
Having a whole lot of fun because I'm doing what I want to do for a living. A lot of people, wish they can do what they love for a living, but instead they have to do other things. So for me to be able to do what I want to do for a living is always fun. Even though it's hard work, it's fun.
You got your main trainer here, your coach, your dad, Brother Jalil Hackett, man, over here, man. So how's it been working with your son, coming up in the pros here, after about 2 or 3 fights here?
Honestly, it's been a great journey. I think him understanding the maturity level that it took to be a professional makes the journey easier. And the amateurs, sometimes they look at it as this is just a hobby or a sport that they do for fun. Like most kids that might play high school football and then after high school it's over. But he really has done the maturing part and realized that the professional side requires a lot more focus, not just on the boxing, but on all of the little facets, whether it's being in shape, whether it's eating properly, or doing the things that you have to do to prepare for a fight.
Yeah, so, when the amateurs, like you said, it's, basically for fun, but here in the professionals, it's like your life,
yes.
So
1000%. Yeah, the gloves get smaller, headgear comes off, them lights definitely get brighter, so, you got to mentally prepare yourself or you're going to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, man, and of course you had your thing here with the strength and conditioning coach. What you been working on here with all that?
Man, just following the game plan that Mr. Bernard put in place. Focusing on movement, hips, core, just functional strength is very important, and it's a key part of what he does as an athlete to deliver the knockouts that the fans love to see.
Yeah, you're just basically working on his range, his motion, and everything like that, making sure he gets that down packed and everything, and make sure nothing gets pretty much overstretched or him overreaching or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely prevent any injuries so he can walk in the ring safely and walk out safely.
Yeah, gotcha. Now back to you, man, Jalil, getting in this third fight. Like I said, you were over there at Beltway Battles, had a showing out there at the Washington, D.C. Area there with the entertainment and sports complex. So how was that?
It was a great experience. I got to fight in front of my hometown fans. It's real rare to be able to do that so early in my career when you're with a big promotional company like Mayweather Promotions. But they granted me the ability to fight at home, or the permission to fight at home, and I was super excited to fight in front of friends and family. Yeah, so what is it like working with Mayweather Promotions? I know that I talked with, you guys there with Mayweather, with Leonard Ellaby, and, also, all the other guys there working with them. So how is it, doing the business with them? It's a great experience. I get to learn. A lot of the times when I'm learning from them, it's hands-on learning because we're actually in the situation. Even if I'm not fighting on the card, I'm at the card, they're talking about numbers, talking about stuff, all the procedures they got to go through prior to the fight, during the fight, and after the fight. So I'm learning a lot, not as a fighter, but as, on the business side of the sport too.
Yeah, and I know that, your dad kind of talked to me a little bit about that with the business of the sport and how, people got to be able to understand business. Could you talk about that a little bit more, Coach Bernard?
No, I just, I think when you actually do the interview, I always start, anytime somebody asks me to do an interview with my son, with a disclaimer that we're not with the bullshit. So, coming with questions that have nothing to do with the actual sport when it relates to my son, I just don't see where it makes any value. Like we talked earlier, I think that a lot of times people don't get to see the sport for what the sport is because we get to see a TV show. we don't get to see the filming of the TV show. So there's a lot of moving parts that go on to make any of this possible. You know, I tell people when they ask me, how was it signing with Mayweather Promotions? And I tell them it was no different than any other person who fills out a job application and they get an interview, get a call back for an interview, and then they find out if they got the job. At the end of the day, Mayweather Promotions is his employer. You know, people forget that part. You know, I hear all these different things. They be like, send me the contract, send me this. These guys got promoters, man. I mean, everybody, you know, if you have a promoter, the promoter picks who you fight. I think any fighter in the world will fight any fighter, not just for money, but because of the pride of being a professional fighter.
Yeah.
But it goes through channels, you know, and I think that that's sometimes get lost. And the thing that kind of, I think to a point for my personal self, irritates me is we have a lot of black fighters who go out every day and train, who fight at the fights, they give it their all, and to hear black media at times like tearing them down, it's like no other media for their people tear down their people like our people do. We got fighters that fight, and you'll hear them say, well, he fighting a bum. This guy, the person that's calling you a bum from the media side,
Excuse me.
90% of the time
has never fought before.
Right, they never put on a pair of gloves.
Yeah, so it's hard. I can see if a fighter is telling another fighter, you didn't perform well, you should have did this, you should have did that, you look horrible, you're looking like a bum. It's different when you're a fighter and you're hearing it from another fighter. But when you hear it from somebody who probably can't run a whole lap, a lap around a track is a quarter of a mile, who can't run a whole lap without completely gassing out, calls you a bum, it's like, well, you do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or you can't even go around the ring for 1 minute. Yeah. Not 3 minutes, but 1 minute.
3 minutes, but 1 minute.
These guys, man, you look at it, I look at, you know, how they, you know, talked about this fight. Tank was fighting Rolly's schedule first. That was a good fight, and it didn't happen. Now he's fighting Cruz. Cruz is a good fight. Why are they good fights? Because these dudes are professionals. They spent 12 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever weeks, getting ready to do one thing, dismantle the other guy. Do you think Cruz coming in there to lay down for Tank? Do you think Tank coming in there to lay down for Cruz? You think he trained less for Cruz than he did for Rolly or anybody else? So that kind of irritates me when you hear black media call somebody a bum, or this fight ain't a good fight, you can fight better people.
Or they cherry picking.
Right, you can't cherry pick as a pro. You think these dudes, I mean, not fighting every day, or they not world rated? And then you gotta remember, people got families. You got your husband, your wife, your kids or whatever, and you go out here and you give your all to provide a home for them, and this is your way of living. How you think they feel when you calling their husband a bum or their father a bum? Then you get offended when you see them at the fights and they want to jump on you. Like, that's their father. That's not a fan. That's their father. You know, and that's the part I think people don't see. If the media, when it comes to our black media, focus on the positive side of any fight, any situation, our fighters would do a lot better too. They talk about stuff that don't apply to what's going on. You know, I mean,
the hard work in the background.
Right. My son been doing this boxing stuff since he was 8 years old. If you just learned about my son when he got Mayweather Promotion, you really don't know. For 10 years, my son was fighting. They don't talk about that. When you talk about what they doing, I look at what Mayweather Promotions did. Now, like I said, I always say I speak for my son.
Right.
Or what I saw with my son.
Right.
Then people treated my son like they was a record company back in the 80s, and they was his A&R. Hey, we see you got talent, but we want to make sure we develop the talent properly. We want you to see what you're about to get into. Yeah. And that's the stuff that people don't get to see that side, or they don't want to see that side. You go back and look at Justin Bieber. People seen him when he made an album, but go look at some old videos when he was in the background with Usher, looking at what's going on before you know.
Before you get in there.
They develop them. And what's wrong with that? That's the problem. People live in a microwave generation. It got to get done in 1 minute. It's a process. and if you follow the process, you can come out to be like Tank. Or you follow the process, you can be like Barrios. A process got Barrios to the point where he was even considered the guy for Tank to fight, and he just made some millions, and he taking care of his family.
Exactly.
So it's the process. Thank you. You can't circumvent it. If you respect the process and follow it, you can be the Tanks, the Barrios, the Santa Cruzes, the Canelos, any of that. Because it ain't just being a superstar. Caleb Plant got paid. He lost the Canelo. But he got paid. What you think his wife and his kids call him at home? The champ. The champ. Because they are living a life that most of us only dream to be able to live or provide.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think people kind of like get the behind the scenes stuff that goes on in these gyms and, you know, working towards fighting. And like we said before, like, if you ain't stepped in the ring, you can't call any fighter a bum because they risk their lives out here. No. That's the thing that people don't realize. They risk their lives stepping in that ring. And I don't think they can get it.
You can't die behind that camera.
Yeah, that microphone is the safest place to be. Because there's no violence behind the microphone. Them dudes, man, when you step in the ring, especially at the level that my son blessed to be at, you have to wake up pursuing violence. Because this is a violent, it's like a car crash. Every time they're going, when you talk about this Cruz and Tank fight, how many people think that fight going the distance?
It's not.
Cruz got fans, right?
Yep.
Cruz got knockouts, right?
Yep.
So that means some people thinking he gonna knock him out. Tank got fans, he got knockouts. That means people think he gonna knock him out. So if somebody get knocked out early in that fight, was they a bum or did you see two people in a car crash and one car just came out a little better than the other because both cars took damage?
Yep.
I mean, you gotta look at this realistically and respect fighters.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now back to, you know, Jalil being in action December 5th, man. What I wanted to ask you, Bernard, is how is it like working with your son from an amateur to a pro? Like, what's the biggest thing that you kind of like, you know, want people to kind of like know about him going from being at 8 years old, young, to right now?
He followed the stages. I tell people all the time, when he was 8, I was the boss. Was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There was no, hey, can we compromise? This was not a democracy. This was a dictatorship. Because he chose to box. I wanted him to play football. He chose to box. But when he got to the point where he was saying, I see some stuff when I'm fighting, let's do X, Y, and Z, we started to release the dictatorship and lean towards some democratic ways of doing things. Now that he is a professional, the biggest thing, he allows me to be the dictator because he sees where we've gotten to because of that. But then when I'm asking him, what does he see or what's going on, then it becomes a partnership. So I see the phases that we started out in a dictatorship. We got to the point where it was some democracy. Then we got to the point where it was a partnership. Now it's a partnership. He has as much say in what goes on with him as I do. And in some cases, he'll say, hey, I want to do it this way. And that's the way I want to do it. If I don't have a real reason to say we shouldn't do it that way, then why not do it that way? At the end of the day, he'll be remembered for what he does inside the ring. I'll be remembered if it go bad. So, right, you know, when you a coach, nobody can tell you every coach that won the Super Bowl, but they can tell you who the quarterback was. But if it went bad, they can tell you the coach that lost. So for me, we've come to that point in life where it's a partnership. You know, he's understanding what he must do. I'm understanding what I must do. Years ago, I was like, let me see your weight every morning. Now I was like, son, you got to make sure that your weight is right. Professionalism means make sure your weight is straight. You know, those are the things that I think I'm enjoying more than anything. Like he'll tell me, I don't care what I wear, pick my outfit out. He don't care. What music you gonna use? I don't care. See, that stuff, he don't care. So it's like you still do that, but then there's other things that, you know, he want to know why we playing in this way. Let's talk about this plan. What is the next effect? And like I tell him, I coach Monday through Friday. You have to do it on Saturday or Sunday so that people can see what it does. Once we do the game planning and I put everything on the chalkboard. When we step on the field, only person that was about to happen is the quarterback. Once he say height, the ball in his hands.
It. Yep, he running it. He running it. Yeah, now, brother Jalil, man, so what do you think about what's coming up here December 5th? You know, like I said, getting in here, your third fight, and just getting in there handling business. So what's the biggest thing that you want people to know about you going in there December 5th?
I'm going in there with plans on putting on a great performance, whether it be by knockout or by a decision. You know, I never want to go in there forcing the knockout, because when you go in there and try and look for it, more than often you don't get it, and you probably end up making yourself look bad by forcing it so much. So, you know, I just go in there, do what we've been working on, box my way into my big shots, and if it comes, it comes. But if not, I want people to remember that, oh, Jalil dominated for 4 straight rounds.
Yep, most definitely, most definitely. And the last thing here, me being in the D.C. area, of course, you know, decorated boxing history. Like, what is it like to be part of the D.C. area and the boxing history that it has?
It means a lot, because, you know, a lot of times when people bring up the area, they bring up the DMV, and I make sure I let them know that I'm not from the DMV. I'm from Washington, D.C., Southeast born and raised. So, yeah, being a part of D.C.'s boxing history means a whole lot to me.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So big thanks to all of y'all for taking the time to be here with the Boxing Source, and definitely going to see y'all in action December 5th over in L.A., man. Big time, big time.